It's a great pleasure for me to have this opportunity to speak to a conference on the anniversary of the 30th anniversary of the restoration of the de facto independence of Lithuania. That was a great day for the Lithuanian people, for the world, and for the progress of democracy and freedom. Many people will point out the many ways in which the Lithuanian people directly contributed to the restoration of this rightful position of Lithuania in the world. Today, I would like to use the time I have to call attention to three other groups of people who mattered enormously in the restoration of Lithuanian independence. Not so that they would overshadow what the Lithuanian people themselves did, but so that they not be forgotten, because each of these three groups played a critical role in what happened in Vilnius and throughout Lithuania in 1991. The first of these groups, of course, is the Lithuanian diaspora. Lithuanians living abroad played an absolutely fundamental role in keeping the Lithuanian dream alive, and then at the end helping to engineer the explosion of freedom which returned to Lithuania at that time. As an American, I'm particularly sensitive to the way in which the Lithuanian Americans were responsible not only for the initial recognition of Lithuania by the United States in the 1920s, but also by the role the Lithuanian Americans played in ensuring the establishment of non-recognition policy, which, as all Lithuanians know, played a key role in making sure that Lithuania, like her Baltic neighbors, was treated differently during the Soviet occupation, and which, upon escaping from that occupation, acquired a very different status in the world, so that they, unlike anyone else in the form occupied by Moscow, have been able to enter the key Western institutions of the European Union and NATO. In the 1920s, it was because there were 400,000 Lithuanian American voters that the American president decided he had no choice but to recognize Lithuania, and Estonia and Latvia were added on because one of his political allies was running for reelection, Senator Henry Cabot Lodge. In 1940, many at the U.S. Department of State advocated that the United States have some kind of non recognition policy with respect to the Soviet occupation of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. But there was great resistance to that in the administration of Franklin Roosevelt. And it was only when Lithuanian Americans went to the White House in 1940 and explained to the president that unless there was a non recognition policy, he couldn't possibly count on their votes in the upcoming election when he was running for a third term. Throughout the Cold War and the occupation, Lithuanian Americans played a key role in ensuring the continuation of Lithuanian broadcasts from the United States. And in 1991, they were essential as a communication link between the Lithuanian independence movement in Sąjūdis and the American government. I can't stress that enough as someone who, as head of the Baltic desk at the time, was a chief beneficiary of it. The second group of people who played a key role that are often forgotten are the peoples of the Western countries, of the Western democracies, and even the peoples of the Soviet Union. It's often forgotten in the history we tell ourselves now that thousands, indeed even millions, if you sum it up, of people in Western capitals and in Moscow in January of 1991 came into the streets in defense of Lithuania and its right to be an independent country again, and to demand the withdrawal of Soviet troops and an end to Mikhail Gorbachev's oppressive approach in January of 1991. These people spoke out on a regular basis. Ordinary Americans, ordinary Frenchmen, ordinary British citizens, ordinary Russians. who demanded that Lithuanians have the rights they were seeking. Had they not done so, it is unfortunately likely that Western governments would not have been willing to do even as much as they did, although it was less than many of us wanted. As head of the Baltic Working Group at the Department of State in the first 6 months of 1991, I can tell you that there were literally thousands of telephone calls and faxes and emails and all that sort of thing, telling us that it was absolutely essential that the United States stand up to Moscow and make sure that Lithuania could be independent. And the third group of people, which is often forgotten and shouldn't be, are the subordinate parts of governments, especially in Western governments, who also played a key role. Their role is often neglected, and that's a terrible mistake. Not only did the state and local governments in the United States and in some other countries play a key role in being more supportive of Lithuania's recovery of independence and its freedom than did the national government, which had its own broader concerns of dealing with the USSR. But as independence came closer and then was achieved, it was these groups that played the key role in delivering many things. Lithuania would be a very different place today had it not been for the state National Guard assistance to the military, had it not been for the efforts of provincial governments in Canada to provide support for Lithuanian agriculture, and the list can be extended. That was a great achievement. And I think as we celebrate a great holiday, the first of what one hopes will be an uninterrupted series into the future. These three groups, the Lithuanian diaspora, the peoples of the West, and in some cases in the East, and the subordinate governments, the below the national governments in these countries in playing a key role, must not be forgotten. They too, along with the heroic Lithuanian people, were responsible for the victory of 1991, a victory that the world marks this year, the 30th anniversary of this year, with great pleasure and pride, and the very best wishes that Lithuania will have a future every bit as glorious as its past has been. Thank you.